Hello, in this video I'm going to cover the champion points tree for beginning players and for players that are basically kind of climbing the ranks of CP. I'm going to go over a brief explanation on how the champion system works, how you advance through this, and then how you should kind of attack filling in your points as you level up. And I'm basically going to handle this in kind of three different stages. Well, maybe four, if you kind of consider the very end stage is kind of a much more drawn out and long one, but it's not as fruitful. So we're going to talk about four stages. So the first stage is when you reach CP. The second stage is achieving CP160, so you can wear fully maxed out gear, because that is the level of gear that is the top level is CP160 gear. And then the third stage would be performance cap, and that is not really a hard number. It's kind of more dependent on what role you're playing or what environment you're involved in. And then the fourth stage is more of a convenience, kind of filling in stuff that you can kind of flex in and out without having to pay to respec or reload your build, basically. So I'm going to cover how the champion tree the system advances first, and then I'm going to show you a couple of things that you can do as you're kind of leveling through things. If you happen to make a mistake, how you can kind of respec that without paying for money, and then also how you can do that if you don't want to, or you don't have the method to respec, then or you can actually pay to the gold to do that. So first off, we're going to talk about the champion tree and how it advances. These do not advance like one color at a time. Basically, they alternate, just like you would kind of think about each of these players at a blackjack table or something. You don't deal two cards, two cards, two cards. It's basically you get a point, then a point, then a point, and then it goes back to the beginning, and it goes to the green tree, the blue tree, the red tree. So it goes crafting tree, warfare tree, fitness tree. So when you get to level 51, you'll hit the crafting tree, then 52, you'll hit warfare, 53, you'll hit fitness. 54, you'll hit crafting tree, 55, you'll hit warfare, 56, you'll hit fitness, and so on and so forth. So that's important to understand, because you don't get some of these trees filled in all at the same time. So it's kind of a very leveled advancement. So I'm going to show you what I recommend. When you hit level 51, you're going to have 51 points to spend in here. And because your level is essentially how many points you have. So what you're going to do is when you come in here, basically when you start out, you're essentially going to have roughly 17 points for each tree to work with. And I would recommend, for the most part, just trying to start out by filling in your passives here that will advance your ability to fill in more stuff. This over here is one of the highly sought after slottables, the Steed's Blessing. It is really nice to have, but in terms of helping you while you're in combat, this isn't going to really do much, because this shuts off while you're in combat, and essentially the green tree, for the most part, doesn't really do much for your performance. However, there are things that you can benefit from, such as fall damage here, making your food or drink last longer, making it so you don't consume potions as much. There are some really nice functional things here that can help, especially newer players. But I would recommend for the green tree, when you hit level 51, you start in by filling in 10 points on the gilded fingers, and then start working on fortune's favor. And this will increase the amount of gold that you're getting in the game. This increases your gold gain by 2% per stage. So when you have this completely filled in, this will be 10%. But the idea behind this is that you want to start advancing up into this tree so that you can start really gaining access to more stuff that is going to help out your character. So at 51, you're going to have 17 points, and this is where I would recommend starting. For the blue tree, same thing. You're only going to have 17 points here when you hit level CP51. I would recommend, depending on what type of character you're on, if you're on a Magicka-based character, then you can start with this one instead of the stamina. I would just say either or. You don't necessarily have to do both. And then I would start going into the staving death node here and start filling in quick recovery. And the reason is you want to fill this one in until you have 10 points. This right here, the preparation passive, is extremely helpful when you are low level. This is going to reduce your damage taken by 10% when you get this filled in all the way. So this is going to be one of the very first things I would recommend filling in as soon as you can get to it. So when you hit level 51, this is where I would get you going, and then it'll take you another 9 stages or so to get this filled in all the way. So roughly level CP60, you'll have it up to this point, and then you can start filling in preparation at that point. But as of right now, at level CP51, you're only going to have 17 to start. And so with the red tree, I would start off with these 2 slottables up here. These are really going to help you if you're lower level by giving you maximum health and armor on your character, and you can slot them on your tree by just hitting the assign button, which is X on the PlayStation. And as you can see at the very top screen there, I have them slotted up there, and then you'll have to confirm everything by hitting the square button on PlayStation or whatever your corresponding button is. And so this is what I would say starting out at level CP51, what you should have kind of filled in to start out with. And so that is going to be the stage that I talk about here. So the next level is that I'm going to talk about is CP160. So that's going to be another 45 points roughly or so per CP tree. So basically, we're going to spend 36 points, actually, is the total per tree to get to CP level 160. And that is when you're going to be able to build maximum gear. I'm not going to chop down this into smaller increments because I kind of think that that's the kind of goal you want to aim for, is CP160. And basically with all the implementation of XP that you can pull out in the game now, it really is not that difficult to get to level CP160 if you're trying to power level stuff. So we're just going to add 36 points here, and we're going to talk about what we're doing here. So I'm going to add 3 here so that I can get to the point where I can advance. This tree right here is simply for crafting. If you're trying to work on inspiration, this is really helpful if you're really brand new to the game. This can help get your crafting maxed out. Although if you're not really into crafting, this could be a waste of points. So that is a decision for you to make. This tree right here is massively diverse, so it helps in a lot of facets in the game, but it kind of depends on what you want to do in the game. So I'm going to recommend that you fill in 10 points here for this Wanderer. So that's 30 points total. And then we're going to come up here to the Steadfast Enchantment, and we're going to give it 10 more points. So that's 23 points that we've done. So we need to get about 13 more. So then I'm going to recommend you come down here to Rationer and go 10 points here. And as you can see, this is starting to implement a lot of different things. And then we can go in 3 points into fall damage, or 4 points into fall damage. Okay, so this is what your green tree will look at look like at CP160. You're kind of filling in a lot of different helpful things that you can activate. Again, once you get into like higher levels, you can start filling in slottables. However, this is kind of more optional for running around. This is going to help you. This is more non or more in combat help. This is going to make your food last 10 minutes longer, so you don't have to re-up your food as often. When you get this filled in, if you jump off of something, it's going to reduce the damage you take. Way Shrine, I've done a video on this previously. I do not recommend filling in any points ever past this 10-point slot. I would just cement this as it is right here and never put any more points in it. And then up here is going to reduce the chance of using your weapon enchantments, so you don't have to charge your weapons as much. So as you can see, you're kind of adding a lot of different things here that are going to help your build by just kind of sprinkling in a little bit of help here and there, rather than loading all your points into movement speed. Now you're getting a little bit of help everywhere. For the blue tree, what we're going to do is we're going to fill in this to get this 3 points here, and then we're going to take all 20 and we're going to load it right there, because this right here is damage reduction from non-players. So if you're running around in dungeons, in trials, in just overland, public dungeons, arenas, wherever, as long as it's not a player, this is going to reduce your damage taken. So this is really going to help you a lot. So what we need to do is we need to spend another 13 points in the blue tree. So I would recommend coming up here and putting 10 points into precision, and that is going to open up these trees to be able to start filling in when you want to. And then you can also start putting in points into, I suppose piercing would be good. So we're going to do 3 points to piercing. So as you can see, this would roughly be what your blue tree looks like at level CP160. Again, I know a lot of people would kind of push towards putting slottables on, but the idea here is to kind of get to the point where you can get a lot of different things to help you. And this mitigation of preparation is really, really helpful at an early stage, especially when you don't have other things helping you mitigation wise. That is a really, it almost feels like coming up out of water and you haven't taken a breath for a while. It is really helpful. So for the red tree, these two are really helpful at low level. I'm going to recommend that you just stick with these two, because a lot of this other stuff is a little bit more not as effective. These two right here are really going to be your bread and butter. So I would recommend just kind of staggering them. Put it up to this point. We'll get it to 20 on each one, maybe 25 on each one. Okay, so 27 and 26, or if you want to do that reverse, I would recommend doing that. As you can see, you're getting more max health and more armor. I feel like as a beginner stage, those two things are going to be the most helpful to you, because it's going to help you be more tanky. And when you are in a lower level situation where you don't have a access to a lot of resources such as gold, or maybe gold materials, or even a filled in sticker book where you can kind of access gear pieces that might be more helpful. These two right here are extremely helpful and powerful. So at CP level 160, you're going to have roughly this amount of points to use. I would recommend strongly to put your red tree points here. It's going to help you quite a bit if you allocate them this way. And it's going to help you advance your content a little bit more. So roughly at level CP160, you're going to have about 53 points per tree to work with. You'll have one more in the green tree, so I guess, implement that. So we'll just put the 5 there. So that's the accurate listing there. So that is essentially what you would look like at 160. So from here, the next kind of stage is starting to fill in your champion tree when you get to trying to get to level 1600, which is roughly the performance cap, meaning you have all 4 of your slottables activated and you have all of the passives filled in. So basically you cannot benefit from the CP tree anymore, and then it becomes convenience from there on after. So that is going to be a lot more wide range path to cover, because it depends largely on what role you're playing. If you're a PvE DPS, then you'd probably want to focus on getting this arm up here filled in and the head. If you are a tank, you're going to focus on the body of this celestial being here, because that is mostly where the tanking stuff is. And then healers are up here in the staff area. As you can see in the background, this is a staff coming up here. These are primarily the healer CPs in here. There's also some stuff inside here as well. But that would be my recommendation, is you're going to want to try and fill in towards, once you have the paths unlocked, then you can start filling in CPs and getting some access to some really powerful stuff. So for the green tree, this is, again, it's just going to be a long drawn out road, because you're talking about a large amount of CP points. So depending on what your activities are, this could take a couple of weeks, this could take a couple of months. It just depends on how often you can play the game, what activities you're doing. If you're optimizing, there's a lot of different ways you can attack this. But the distance between 1600 CP and CP160, that's 1440 points total. So, and that equates to roughly 480 points in each tree. So I don't want to go really super detailed into how you should do every little tiny point, because I can't explain that in a video concisely with every single role that you're going to possibly play in. In PvP, for example, you could very well come down into this tree and get some defensive stuff, have something up here in offensive, or maybe even a healing CP over here. There's a lot of different ways you can choose to advance from that, but I feel like this is kind of a good starting point of once you get to level CP160, then you want to try, after what your CP160 is, to try and look and see what CP slottables you want for your build. And honestly, by the time you get to CP160, you should kind of know where you're wanting to go with your build, and then kind of fill in the starter point here like this, to where you can start filling in. Let's say you wanted to activate Wrathful Strikes for your build. You'd want to fill this in 10 and then start filling this in all the way to where you can slot it like this. And then once you have all your slottables, then you can start going back through your passives and completing the passives as you deem whichever ones are the most necessary. And then once you have your passives filled in, then you're going to be at the performance cap. So you're going to want to go all through here, and anything that doesn't have the word slottable on here. So as you can see, it says active, add to the champion bar to activate. That's a slottable. If it doesn't have that verbiage at the top there above ironclad, then it is, like, for example, this right here is a true passive. So these are all passive. They're always active, and you don't have to put them up in your slottable nodes that are at the top of the screen there. Unfortunately, you only have 4 of those, so you kind of have to be selective as to which ones you do put up there. But I will show you what a champion tree looks like We'll just do a DPS because I think that's probably more common than anything, just based on the fact if you do a trial, there's 8 DPS, 2 healers, and 2 tanks. So DPS is probably the most common I would say out there. So we're just going to fill in all of these. Passives here are, these deal with doing damage with status effects and elemental damage of certain types. They increase the damage done and how often you can activate your damage. So I'm just going to, we'll do deadly aim and we'll do master at arms. We'll just act like this is a single target direct damage build and we'll slot that. And then I'm going to put fighting finesse on. It doesn't really matter. This is just kind of a demonstration of what the tree would look like. So as you can see, I've filled in all the passives. There are no more passives to fill in. And everything else here is basically going to be beneficial for slottables. The green tree is a lot different because they did a change where most of this is passive. So I'm not going to cover that. This is going to be more of a, you choose your own adventure on that CP tree. For the red tree, I will show you what that looks like when you're fully filled in. You're going to want to fill these 2 nodes in. Come in here, this purple tree, the very center, Mystic Tenacity, is a passive. Then over here, the Hero's Vigor is going to give you more max health. And then Piercing Gaze is going to reduce your stealth detection. And then Tempered Soul, when you get resurrected, you're going to have 10% more resources. And then there's a passive here, Sprinter. This reduces the cost of sprint. Then there's another passive here. It's called Hasty. This increases your movement speed. And then we have another passive right in the middle here, Tireless Guardian, that increases your block mitigation, or excuse me, reduces your block cost. Then you have block mitigation down here, total of 4%. Inside this Walking Fortress, there's a passive right here in the middle. This will increase your movement speed while you are blocking. And then coming up to the top of the tree, you have Savage Defense that increases, or excuse me, reduces the cost of your bash per stage. And then this increases the damage that your bashes do. All right, so this is all of your passives filled in. And then I'll just fill in these all the way since we already had those going. And for the most valuable, again, I would roughly say Celerity is a really good one to have. But then if you are a DPS in group content, I would highly recommend that you fill in Spirit Mastery and keep this slotted at all times because you're going to be expected to resurrect, and this will speed up that process greatly. So this is how your red tree would roughly look if you are at the performance cap for the red tree. Again, you can move around getting different slottables. You don't have to go with these slottables, but this is the basically the point allocation, so to speak. So anytime you are done working with adding points, you need to confirm your points by hitting the square button on PlayStation or your corresponding button in the system that you're playing. So that is roughly what it looks like when you are at the performance cap. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips to work on this stuff. Basically, whenever you start a character, or if you're brand new to the game, if you come up here to the crown store, and you come all the way over to, I believe it is in the furnishing tab, there is a free item that you can get that is going to help you a lot. If I can just locate it. It is the Armory Station right here. It's in the special heading. So when you first come in, there's the limited time offers. Then there's the featured stuff, house guests. Right under house guests, there's the special area. Come here and purchase the Armory Station. This is free to use. All you have to do is have a house. So what I'm going to recommend is if you have access to Northern Elsewhere. If you don't, that's not a huge deal. You can just pick a city that you want to use as your hub, so to speak. You're going to want to purchase what I call apartments. They're really, really small homes. They're only 3,000 gold. And in Northern Elsewhere, for example, it is the Sugar Bowl Suite. I'll go inside here just to show you how tiny it is. This is not anything that you're going to be able to do a whole lot of decorating with, because it has a very small amount of slots that you can put furniture in. But at the very least, you can at least put in, as you can see, the Armory Station here. And why is that important? You can go into the Armory Station, and every character, when you start off, has 2 free slots on the Armory. And why is that important? Because, as you can see right now, I have my points activated here, and they are confirmed and being used. If you want to pull those points out without paying to respec, then you can come into your Armory Station. Now, if you want to, you can save your current build. So if you ever want to come back to this setup, you can save your current build as it is right now by just using the save button, and on PlayStation, that is the triangle button. So I'm just going to show you how to do that right here. And as you can see, I have 1,100 CP points. I didn't fill in my green tree, so that's why it doesn't look like level 1,600. So if you don't want to use, or you wanted to change, for example, say you made a mistake, you saved the points, and oops, you put points into something you didn't mean to or didn't want to. You can come over here to this other slot. Now, I'll honestly, I have way more slots than what you're going to start off with, but you should have, pretend this is slot 1 and this is slot 2. You will have 2 to use on an armory. You're going to equip the build by hitting square on the one that's blank. And what that's going to do is it's going to load you back to having absolutely nothing spent on your tree for free. You can do that for free. Then what you can do is just start over by coming in here, filling in your points how you want it. And let's just say I wanted to just save just that right there, all 50 into that. Okay, then you come back into this Armory Station. Now let's say you wanted to fix this. You did all the changes that you wanted to. Then all you're going to do is come up here to this one and hit Save Build. And it's going to revert everything to what you just had there. And you're going to only have the 50. So now that's how you can fix that without paying to alter your CP. Now, if you don't want to interact with that and you just want to fix something on the fly and you've got the gold to burn, then you can absolutely go into the CP tree, and there is currently a redistribution button that you can hold. And then this, as it tells you on the screen, it's going to cost 3,000 gold to do each redistribution that you process. Hopefully they change that in the future to make it free, because they did make respecking skill points and attribute points free, but this for some reason did not get that change implemented in the game as of yet. But you can just do it on the fly like this. However, it will cost you 3,000 gold to do that. So just keep that in mind. That is something that you can do. So a couple of things that I'm going to recommend if you are trying to reach each of these stages for advancing to CP level 160 and up to 1600. A couple of activities that you can do to really, really advance your characters and your profiles overall. Number 1, the daily dungeon finder. This is going to be an extremely valuable thing to do. For one, you're going to get skill points for running dungeons that you've never done, because there is a quest in each one of those. You're going to get transmute crystals every time you do this. So that will enable you to build gear once you have that in your sticker book. And most importantly, you're going to get a large amount of XP. As you can see on the screen, each daily dungeon that you do is 101,000 XP. So that is going to be a very valuable way to advance your character. It's also going to teach you how to use the game in terms of combat. It will start you off if you are a lower level character like pre-CP, then it's only going to give you, for example, if you are below level 15, you're only going to get something like Fungal Grotto 1, Spindle Clutch 1, and Banish Cells 1 for your choices. And then it will advance based on what level you are after that. Some of these dungeons you can't even go into unless you are a certain level. And so keep that in mind. It will restrict you from getting into those if you are not a high enough level. So just keep that in mind. And there is actually a really good reason for that because in most cases, you're probably just going to get killed a lot unless you're in a scenario where you've got a couple people that can just do the dungeon and you can literally just sit there and paint your fingernails or something like that. So there is that issue. Another thing that we can implement now in the game is the challenge difficulty. This is really going to help a lot in scenarios where there is a lot of people around that you can still gain access to gaining the XP. And what I'm going to recommend is I have to step out of my house in order to change this. Um, I would recommend highly going to the Alakir Desert Dolmens. And why am I saying that? Is because it's a very populated area. It's going to have a lot of people there, and so the enemies are going to die really fast. You're not going to get hit by very much, and you're going to get a ton of XP. You're also going to advance your Fighters Guild skill line by doing those. That's another issue that I'm going to bring up is do your guild dailies. Pick up your Undaunted Pledges and your Undaunted Daily, your Mages Guild Daily and your Fighters Guild Daily. Do those every day. There's a lot of XP and growth to get in there as well. But if you go to the Alakir Desert Dolmens on your build, switch it to Vestige. I know that looks like it's scary to look at the damage that you're going to take, but honestly, you're not going to get hit very much. You're going to earn more gold from the monsters, and you're going to have essentially double XP right off the bat, regardless of your situation. You're going to get essentially double XP from doing that, and it's going to advance your levels quite a bit faster, twice as fast, in fact, with just this implementation alone. So I would highly consider going into the Alakir Desert Dolmens and doing that. If you kind of bored with doing the dolmens and it's too monotonous for you, try to think of what activity is currently being done by a large amount of people. For example, currently in Stone Falls, Auradon, and Glenumbra, there are activities called the Dynamic Encounters that are launching quite a bit, and people are farming those a lot. You could implement the Vestige difficulty there and really take advantage of getting some XP that way. Um, you're not going to get hit with virtually anything with as many people that are running around doing that. Um, there's a lot of different things that you can implement the Vestige difficulty on. One thing, if you do switch this on and you happen to go into Cyrodiil, be very careful with this because if you go into a delve in Cyrodiil, this is still active, and you cannot switch it inside of Cyrodiil because for some reason they understand that you're in a PvP zone, but they've failed to disable the Vestige difficulty when you are in delves. I have experienced this firsthand, so just be careful when you go into Cyrodiil. Make sure you switch this to Adventurer beforehand if you are planning to go into delves to get the Blessings of War buff for getting more AP. So anyway, that is kind of a long-winded video, but I wanted to try and see if this type of a video would be helpful for people. Just kind of give an overview of how this CP system works, how you should advance through it at lower levels, and then kind of give you goals to reach. Um, honestly, another good implementation I would say is get your research going on your crafting um, and your daily crafting writs. I will post a couple of playlists in my description in case you're looking for other videos that I've done that are kind of more beginner based or whatnot. Check those out. If you think this video was interesting, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my YouTube channel. I have a very large catalog of videos on my YouTube channel. They are all organized by playlist, so you can easily locate that stuff. All you have to do is go to my main page and then go to the playlist tab, and then go to where you can see all the playlists there. They are all organized by content, so check them out, see if there's anything else of interest. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in another video. Bye.